This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good afternoon, Rabbi. In preparation for Bedikas Chametz, the Ramah teaches us in Simon Tov Lamed Beis that the minhag is v'noyagim lahaniach pesisei chametz b'makam sheyimsoim haboidek. The minhag is to place out pieces of chametz in a place that the checker will find it. Says the Mishnah Brura, what kind of chametz? Chametz kasha shlei yisparer. It should be hard chametz that doesn't crumble, and in a place where kids and mice will not get to. Let's speak about some of the halachas of these pieces of bread. The minhag al pi the Arizal is to put out 10 pieces of bread. So it's just advisable. First of all, the Svarim mentioned, Rav Shimon Eider's book mentions on page 80 that one should wrap them or place a paper under the pieces. Obviously, you don't want to get chametz anywhere. Very interesting. Who should put out the pieces? The Piskei Teshuvos brings down that the minhag ha'olam is the bnei bayis hide it, and the bala bayis looks for it. This, he says, is based on the Choik Yaakov. I don't know that this is a minhag ha'olam. In my house, I let some of my kids put it, but I know where they're putting it. Otherwise, I would not recommend having children put it somewhere. You may never find it. In fact, the Stipler, it's reported in the Orchos Rabbeinu Chelik Beis, page Beis Ois Hey, the Stipler himself put out the pieces. We're not to have the Bnei Bayis put out the pieces. Two critical halachos about the pieces that are put out. Number one, the Shari Tshuva writes in the name of the Chidah. Number one, each piece should be less than a kazayas. Very important. Why? This way, if you don't find it, you won't be over Bal Yirah, Bal Yimatzeh, because it will be less than a kazayas. So it's very important that each piece is less than a kazayas. Number two, the Stipler writes in the Orchos Rabbeinu Chelik Beis, page Beis, that the Sach HaKol in total, all the pieces together, should be a kazayas. Because if you don't have a kazayas in total, you won't be yotzei the mitzvah of Sreifas Chametz. So each piece has to be less than a kazayas, but in total, all the pieces together need to be more than a kazayas. Now, says the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Siman Kuf Yud Aleph Ois Ches, Pashut, someone who does a very superficial bedika and is only looking for the 10 pieces, Loi Kayem Mitzvahs Bedika, and you made a bracha l'vatala. The purpose is not to look for the pieces. As the Choik Yaakov says, the purpose is to look for chametz. It may be a very unrewarding task, so Chazal gave a certain reward and impetus that you'll find those 10 pieces. But the purpose is not to find those 10 pieces. The purpose is to look for chametz. What's the feather all about? Why in the world do we take a feather? Says the Mishnah Brura, Simon Tov Lamed Gimel of Katan Mem Vav. The reason is because you want to get into the chayrim usadakim, and therefore the minhag is to take noitza, it's a feather, to be able to scrape out the chametz together with the feather. What's with the wooden spoon? Nobody uses a wooden spoon anymore. That's from the old times. Why do we use a wooden spoon? There's actually a very important reason for it. Look in the Ramah at the end of Simon Tov Mem Hey. If a person doesn't find chametz when he searched, says Ramah, you burn the kli so that the concept of burning chametz is not forgotten. And this is also brought in the Shulchan Aruch Harav. A similar reason, that if you don't have what to burn, then you'll forget to make the second bittul in the morning. So therefore, we use a wooden kli, the kli which is easy to be burned, in order to have a sreifa, to be mekayim some inyan of sreifa, so that the concept of sreifa is not forgotten, and in this way you'll remember to do a proper bittul the next day as well. Okay, Rabbi says, so this is the halachos of the size of the pieces. Should not be each one less than a kazayas, total more than a kazayas. Who puts out the pieces? The reason for the feather and the reason for the wooden spoon. Wish everyone Chag Kosher v'Sameach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.